channel. Today I'm going to be doing something that I've been looking forward to since finishing my 19-day adventure on the John Muir Trail. We're diving into the post-hike gear review, what worked, what didn't, the lessons learned while hiking 211 miles from Tuolumne Meadows to Mount Whitney and then through the Whitney portal. Whether you're a seasoned through hiker or just getting started, this video will give you an in-depth look at my gear list, the hits, the misses, and some surprises along the way. Stick around, and if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe for more trail content. Let's start with the foundation of any hike, the backpack. I carried the Durston Kakwa 55-liter backpack, which performed beautifully. It was lightweight and super comfortable. It carried my Bearable 500 vertically inside with room to spare for my clothing bag, my tent, my sleep system, and my electronics. I think this is ultimately down to how well I planned out the organization of my backpack. On the shoulder strap, I have a GoPro strap which allowed for quick access filming on the trail. The Kakwa's external pockets allowed me to store quick access things like my maps, trekking poles, Tenkara fishing rods, first aid kit, toilet kit, allowing the larger interior size to be able to hold all of those extra large items. For water, I carried two 1-liter smart water bottles, one in the shoulder strap and one over here, while using the CNOC 3-liter water bag and the Sawyer squeeze to filter my water, typically gravity fed, but I sometimes squeeze the bags to speed up my refills. My packing method was consistent every single day, which kept things efficient and easy to manage. If you're considering the Kakwa 55, I highly recommend it for its comfort and its functionality. My shelter for 19 nights was the Durston X-Mid 2. It was fantastic, lightweight, spacious, and easy to pitch. It handled everything from wind to a dusting of snow, which you can see in another video. I used the MSR groundhog stakes, a mix of 6-inch and 7.5 inch, which worked flawlessly in all of the different soil types on the John Muir Trail, the JMT. I carried the X-Mid ground sheet, but I personally struggled with making it fit perfectly, so by the end of it, I stopped using the ground sheet altogether and just kept it at the bottom of the bag. If I had to do it all again, I'd probably leave the ground sheet at home for a trip in the Sierras specifically. The Stargazer kit stayed in my sack the entire trip. While it sounded nice, I found myself either cowboy camping or keeping the entire tent together, so it wasn't necessary. I stored all the stakes and everything in a lightweight stake bag made by Almonds, right? Which kept them organized and easy to access, especially right here in the front pouch. So the X-Mid 2 and MSR groundhog stakes as my sleep system. My Zenbivy 25-degree light quilt was one of the MVPs of this trip. It kept me warm on colder nights, including the cowboy camping I did at Guitar Lake the night prior to summiting Mount Whitney, where I used it again for additional warmth in the summit shelter while the winds were blowing harshly and water bottles were freezing. It was so cold the morning I summited Mount Whitney. But it paired perfectly with the Zenbivy light mattress, which provided excellent comfort and insulation. It's a little bit heavier, but I wouldn't go without it. To protect my quilt and add warmth, I've also brought the Silk Cotton Blend Travel Sleeping Bag Liner from Sea to Summit. For additional luxury, I used the Sea to Summit Arrows pillow and the Zenbivy pillow. Yes, 2 pillows. They were light enough. Everything fits into my 7-liter compression sack, saving valuable space. The sack was a game changer and keeping everything compact and organized. Although I struggled as a side sleeper to maintain the proper height between my shoulder and my head. Even using a clothing bag as an additional pillow, I really struggled to use the Arrows pillow and the Zenbivy pillow because they would slide against each other and I'd end up only with one. Even using my clothing bag as it would slide. But overall, I wouldn't change anything other than the pillow for my sleep system. It was comfortable, it was compact, and extremely reliable. My cook kit was simple but effective. It includes a Toaks 750mm titanium pot, a pocket stove, a 230 gram fuel canister, and a long-handled Sea to Summit spoon. While this setup worked well for boiling water, I regret not bringing a lightweight frying pan or a bigger pot for cooking trout. I caught hundreds of trout. Hundreds. And I released every single one of them, either due to no open fires above 10,000 feet or simply because the fish wouldn't fit in the pot for me to cook them properly. Food-wise, I had a mix of Next Mile meals and Peak Refuel entrees. My favorites included the Buffalo Ranch chicken and the roast beef deli and mountain berry cobbler. Snacks were essential for keeping my energy up, like Honey Stinger waffles, the Honey Stinger energy gels, Element and Waterboy electrolyte drink mixes, and Paleo Valley beef sticks. All food went into my Bear Vault 500, which was bulky but required for the trail. Despite its size, it kept my food safe and bears and critters left me alone. Electronics. All of them. My electronics setup includes the GoPro, which captured incredible footage, but the GoPro thumb screw and the tripod didn't hold up as well. I cracked the plastic on the thumb screw and lost one of the 3 legs within the first week. And I had to handhold the GoPro or loosely attach it to the shoulder strap for the rest of the hike, which wasn't ideal. The Nightcore 20,000 power bank was phenomenal. It charged my Garmin InReach 2, my Fenix 7X, and my iPhone 15 with ease. I also carried a backup, the Anchor 10,000. It wasn't needed that often. For lighting, I used the Nightcore NU43 headlamp, which I only needed for the sunrise summit of Mount Whitney. Most nights, the moonlight was bright enough to navigate by. Pro tip I learned in my first week on the trail: do not charge devices overnight, like while you're sleeping. The trickle charge after the device hits 100% drains your bank faster than you expect. Rarely did I let the device get to a full charge, like 100%, at any point in time after the first week of my hike. I carried most of my devices between 80 and 90% when I took them off the charger. I still only needed to charge them about once every 2 days. But I carried 1 battery in my GoPro along with 3 additional batteries that would fit into my charger here. And my GoPro battery charger was the only charger that was different than all my other devices. Everything else took the Type-C. I did have my Garmin watch, my Fenix 7, had a different charger type, but I just kept it on one of the straps at all times. And then I only took 1 outlet charger. I do wish I would have taken 1 or 2 when I hit places like VVR or places that I could recharge. It was really hard to charge one item at a time, typically my power banks, and the 20,000 was slower than others to charge. I did take a flex tail to pump up my light mattress. I ended up not using it after the first week. I didn't even bother trying to recharge it, but it still has a charge, and we're months after the trail. I just didn't want to factor that into my charging fact. But the Garmin InReach tracked my miles. I was able to send it to my family. It was great communication, both with people back home and people I met on the trail, people I was looking to meet on the trail. It was great communication tool for that text message type thing. Those were the electronics that I took on trail. And out of all of them, it was absolutely phenomenal to have. I just wish that I would have got a more robust tripod, and maybe I would have got a slightly different angle on some of my filming. One of the downfalls to breaking this in the first week was filming my fishing, because most of my fishing was based off of this tripod. Clothing. All right. All right, clothing. My clothing for the JMT was pretty dialed in, both for comfort and for performance. On the trail, I wore my Garmin Phoenix 7X Kettle Mountain Shenanigan pants, 10,000 versatile long sleeve shirt, Krakatoa trunks, Injinji toe socks, my North Face hat since I lost my Pirates hat on the plane. I had Topo Athletic Traverse shoes, which dried quickly and protected my feet from all the rocks with their built-in rock plate. And I had Mariner polarized sunglasses. The 10,000 versatile long sleeve shirt and the Kettle Mountain Shenanigan pants were adorable, breathable, and held up extremely well under my 36-pound pack. In camp, I'd swap out to Features or Darn Tough socks, as well as the 10,000 interval shorts. I took Darn Tough calf highs, and I only ended up using them for gloves as I went up on Mount Whitney. Again, it was freezing cold. I had the 10,000 over zip that I wore as a layer, as well as their lightweight t-shirt that I wore mostly when I was washing clothes. I had two different type. I had Saks boxers and I had Stance Sea Level boxers. I definitely highly advise for the Krakatoa trunks. They are the most comfortable things I've ever worn. I had the Microgravity by Outdoor Research. It only sprinkled one day, never enough for me to get out a rain jacket, so I can't really say too much about its durability, but I had it in the event that I needed it. And then, of course, Mountain Hardware's Ghost Whisperer 2 puffy jacket. This was one of the most vital things in my layering system for the cold mornings, as well as what I wore up onto Mount Whitney. This was a game changer, and I'm glad I took it. I'm glad I did everything I could to get this jacket. But this is also what caused me to sweat most of the hike up to Mount Whitney, which ended up making it twice as cold while we were up there and forced me to use my Zenbivy light quilt for additional warmth. But I put all of that into a 13-liter bag, as well as using my Sea to Summit Airlight towel for those days that I was taking a bath, aka cleaning off in the creek, and I was doing my laundry. But that is everything I took clothing wise, and once again I want to highlight the Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisperer 2 as being phenomenal. All of my 10,000 products, specifically the versatile long sleeve shirt, were phenomenal. For the stitching, even on my shoulder where my shoulder straps rubbed for 19 days, there's minimal marking. The Krakatoa boxers are the softest things I've ever worn, and I never really wanted to forcefully change them outside of having to. My my Kettle Mountain shenanigan pants, I did wear a tiny hole into the back pocket, but that's because I was a weirdo and still carried my wallet back there. And between sitting on all the logs and sitting on the granite stones, I managed to rub a hole through in 19 days. No fault of the fabric or the company. Mostly, I was extremely harsh on them. I don't think I would change a single product out when it comes to clothing. Now, 2 failures of my own. Despite being from Florida and being in the sun every day, one of the key components I forgot was some type of sun protection. So back here in the corner, you can see 2 things. One, I ended up picking up a tiny can of sunscreen at Red's Meadow because by day 3, I was burnt. I was already peeling by the time I got to VVR. Now, in the event that I didn't have this, what I really wish that I would have packed was one of these lightweight sun hoodies. I saw a lot of people on the trail that had these, and I really became envious of them after my sunburn. They're super light, but this could have mitigated all of that sunburn on my neck and my ears in the event that I didn't have this. These are the 2 things I forgot. My failure. People advised me to take sunscreen. I didn't trust them based on being from Florida. Knowing what I know now, I highly advise everybody through hiking the JMT to take either a sun hoodie or prep with sunscreen. Please take my warnings. You can see my peelings and my sunburn in other videos. Be careful out there. My Tenkara fishing rods, Seiyu Therapy 33, and the Tenkara Rod Company Sierra Rod. Fishing was one of the highlights and main focuses of this trip. I carried these 2 rods with me the entire time, to include summiting Mount Whitney. Along with them, I carried the South Bend collapsible fishing net, and I ended up breaking this the first or second day. So you'll see in my videos that when I'm picking up fish, I'm not using the net because it failed me. But I carried a lot of extra flies, a lot of extra lines. 2 rods I probably could have got away with 1, but this gave me the opportunity to teach at least 2 people while on trail. One of my good friends, Aiden, and another individual I taught how to take care of fish. Aiden smacked 12 trout just at Tyndall Creek, which was amazing. I could not see myself doing this any differently, but I wanted to emphasize that with these, the Mariner sunglasses were a hyper focus point because while I was fishing, I could see the fish through the water when I had other hikers come up to me and ask me if there were any fish, and I was pointing at them and they couldn't see them. I had one hiker ask if my sunglasses were polarized, and that was when it like clicked that my sunglasses were giving me that advantage. He tried them on, could immediately see the fish, and he was saying I had a cheating advantage when it came to fishing because my sunglasses showed me where the fish were while his sunglasses didn't give him that opportunity. So with that, I was also carrying a ton of extra lines, flies, everything, and that's still not all of it. I also carried additional, the Ikera. I think I could have got away with just carrying this because it opens up and gave me the opportunity to have all of those flies, and I had plenty. Why I carried a second one, I'm not 100% sure, but I did do a lot of fishing, and I caught 572 fish that I counted during my trip. Some of the other items that we can discuss are through the ditty bag. This had my toilet paper and all that. I used the smelly proof bags to pack out a bunch of my trash and smellies. But inside that, I had my first aid kit, which had chapstick, Advil, Tylenol, tenacious tape, and then all of the normal medical stuff such as creams and bandages. But I used a lot, or I focused on Sanoderm, which is also called second skin. A lot of tattoo artists use it to put over an open wound like a tattoo, but it keeps everything moist, but it doesn't let things get infected, and it's super sticky, so it stays where you put it, which is great for feet when it comes to blisters. I had the lightweight trowel, which was perfect for the soil conditions that I experienced on the JMT. Despite how lightweight it was, I didn't even bend it while on the trail. One thing I did not use was the suds. Everything I did was basically just rinse off the salt and sweat off of my clothing, and I just proceeded. So this is one thing I wouldn't pack. It would save me a couple ounces. I had my Benchmade bug out knife, my mini, my custom one that is bright. I love this thing. I used it a couple times, but I planned on using it for fish, but since I didn't have quite a big enough pot or a fry pan, this became more dead weight most days than it was planned to be had I actually used it for fish. What was a huge game changer and a nightly ritual for me were these Duke Cannon cold showers. They're textured, they're slightly scented, but wiping off with these every night before I got in my sleeping quilt made life amazing. Made me feel clean, made me feel a little bit more comfortable, and I'm taking these on every hiking trip in my future. I had my lightweight toothbrush and the lighter. Now, I took this as a fear mitigation in the event that my self-starter, my little ignition source on my stove, ever failed me, and it hasn't failed me yet. So this was completely unneeded for my time on the trail, but I'm glad to have it as a backup in the event that my stove was not going to work. The last thing I want to talk about is the bidet. For me, it just wasn't a thing. I really tried to make it work and everything, but I didn't want to carry a third water bottle just for this. So I ended up just packing out all my toilet paper. Cleanliness versus reliability. It was just a tool and an extra thing that I probably wouldn't take if I was to hike again. Or maybe one day I'll figure this out a little bit better and I won't necessarily be grossed out by trying to have my drinking water bottles anywhere near this. I needed a third water bottle to feel comfortable using this, but that's just my personal preference. Last but definitely not least is the book, The Trail. I carried this from Tuolumne Meadows to Whitney Portal, taking pictures along the way, because this book was single-handedly the item that taught me and interested me in the JMT. This book, once again, was signed by the author. So there were times where this weight was the weight that I thought that I could justify losing, but with a signed book, I could not justify getting rid of it. I carried this thing all 211 miles, and I'm proud of it because this was the initial source of interest for me to hike the JMT. And I'm proud that I took it the entire way. If I ever did the JMT again, I'm sorry, this would not go with me, but I'm proud that I did it one time. The other luxury item that I mentioned in previous posts was the Helinox Zero chair. I used this 4 or 5 times max on my 19-day trail. I love the chair. I cannot justify taking it if I did the JMT again. There's too many logs, too many rocks, too many established sitting areas that I rarely even took this off my backpack, despite I tried. And there were days where I envisioned fishing next to a creek, sitting in this chair, or reading the book next to a fire. The only place I had a fire was at VVR, so that quickly diminished. And fishing I did standing up most times, so all of my pre-perceived ideas for how I was going to utilize this never came to fruition. So if I had to echo what I was told, leave the chair at home. And I hate saying it because I had so many good ideas with this chair. Leave the chair at home. I loved it, but I didn't use it. So it's really hard for me to say that. This gear carried me through 19 unforgettable days on the John Muir Trail. From the essentials like my Durston Kakwa 55 liter, the Zenbivy light quilt, to luxuries like the trail and my fishing gear, I learned so much about what worked and what didn't. For my full gear list, check out the description in the video for my lighter pack link. Understanding that some of those links are affiliate links. If you purchase through them, I may earn a small commission at no additional cost to you, but it does help support the channel and future adventures. Don't forget to like, please